Exactly 52 years ago on this day, Ghana's first president, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, passed away in faraway Romania. Despite having redeemed Ghana from the shackles of colonialism, Osajifo was to spend his last days far away from his motherland, as the enemies of Ghana's progress had finally succeeded in overthrowing him. A state funeral was held in his honor in Conakry, Guinea, and hundreds of thousands of Guineans came out to pay their last respects. Inscribed on his coffin were three very fitting words: the greatest African. In spite of the never-ending attempts to tarnish the image of the Osajifo, his name and legacy remain more alive than ever. Just as Osajifo himself predicted, death has failed to extinguish the torch which he lit in Ghana and Africa, and 52 years on, his light continues to burn and provide guidance to all people in Africa and beyond. Many Ghanaians today recognize that Osajifo was and remains the best Ghanaian leader ever. In testimony to his enduring greatness, foreign dignitaries who visit Ghana make it a point to visit the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum to pay homage to the Osajifo. From African and European presidents to top-ranking European officials, all the way down to American hip-hop stars. Today, even politicians from the tradition that fiercely opposed the Osajifo admit that Ghana has not had any transformational leader beside Kwame Nkrumah.
What I'm saying is that we haven't had any transformational leadership since Nkrumah.
Since Kwame Nkrumah?
Yes.
So even Rawlings in 19 years was not transformational?
No, I mean, if Rawlings was transformational, 19 years, we have made it,
To guarantee a good life for all Ghanaians and ensure that Ghana could catch up with the advanced countries, Osajifo knew industrialization was the way to go. So to industrialize Ghana, Osajifo established over 100 industries across the country. This industrialization drive resulted in the creation of jobs all over Ghana, with unemployment becoming virtually unknown. Products such as shoes, matches, nails, paints, fruit juices, radios, and many more were all being successfully manufactured in Ghana by Ghanaians. So many more jobs were being created in Ghana as a result of the industrialization and modernization by the Osajifo that there were even plans to import labor from other African countries into Ghana. Also, Osajifo placed great focus on agriculture with the setting up of state farms and the provision of significant support to Ghanaian farmers. All of this was to ensure that Ghana could become a self-reliant and economically independent nation. As Thomas Sankara famously said, "He who feeds you controls you," and this was a reality that Osajifo was fully aware of. It is due to these efforts to make Ghanaians masters of their own destiny, and also his efforts to unite Africa, that Osajifo was considered the greatest threat by those who seek to keep Africa perpetually poor and dependent. From being on the verge of becoming a fully industrialized and economically independent nation under Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana today has been returned to the colonial position of being heavily dependent on foreign imports, with young Ghanaians left drowning in hopelessness and joblessness. As an example of this sad reality, today Ghanaians are told that their country does not even produce matches, but the Kede match factory that Osajifo established has been left to rot in the bush. And the same is true for all the other factories he set up across Ghana. Leaders who followed the Osajifo, with the exception of General Champon, intentionally collapsed these factories and watched on as Ghanaians were left unemployed and hopeless. It is for this reason that many Ghanaians have resorted to every available means to travel outside, seeking for greener pastures. Many Ghanaians have died tragically as they attempted perilous journeys in a desperate bid to reach Europe. Those who have not gotten the chance yet to embark on these risky journeys are being brutally exploited in their own motherland. Not surprisingly, this is exactly the reality Osajifo saw for Ghanaians after he was overthrown. In his book Dark Days in Ghana, Osajifo states categorically that the reversal of his industrialization policies by the traitors through the neglect and selling off of the many factories he had established meant that the ordinary Ghanaian men and women had to face again all the exploitation and uncertainties of the colonial days. For Osajifo, the sellout of Ghana by the traitors who overthrew him meant that Ghanaians had been forced into becoming hewers of wood and drawers of water in their own land, just as was the case in the colonial period. In other words, Ghanaians had become cheap, unprotected slave workers in their own country. I am sure we can all bear witness to the fact that Ghanaians are today living exactly the tragic reality Osagyefo described. This is why the attacks on Osagyefo then must not be seen as attacks on him as an individual, but as an attack on the collective interest of all Ghanaians. This is because Kwame Nkrumah represented the best interest of Ghanaians always, and that is why he was so strongly opposed and hated. Nearly 6 decades on from the time Osagyefo was illegally ousted from power, the infrastructural projects he built continue to serve as the backbone of Ghana's economy. One can only wonder where Ghana will be without critical infrastructure such as the Temamoto Way and Harbour, the Okonfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, the Adome Bridge and the Akosombo Hydroelectric Dam. But this could have very well been the reality if the opposition to Nkrumah had their way, as they fiercely opposed all of these transformational projects. For instance, the then opposition leader, J.B. Dankwa, went to every length to oppose the Akosombo Dam project, describing it as a prestige undertaking. But the Akosombo Dam, over 50 years later, continues to provide the lion's share of Ghana's electricity needs. In fact, in 2020, it was estimated that the Akosombo Dam provided up to 85% of Ghana's electricity. This is the project that the opposition to the Osagyefo did their utmost to block. Today, even with the Akosombo Dam, look at the never-ending electricity issues in Ghana. Then imagine how things would have been if Kwame Nkrumah had not built the Akosombo Dam. Today, 52 years on from the day he passed, there is no doubt that Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is without doubt the greatest and the best Ghanaian leader ever. But what puts Osagyefo heads and shoulders above all others? Yes, Osagyefo was a highly intelligent genius and a visionary, but what truly sets him apart from all the others is his undying love for his people. Throughout all his years in power, Osagyefo fully dedicated himself to serving and defending the best interest of his people. Never once did he seek to advance his own personal interests or that of his family and friends. As we all know, the same cannot be said of almost all other past and present Ghanaian leaders who dedicate themselves to serving their own personal interests to the detriment of their own people. This is the key differentiating factor between Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and the others. And it is for this reason that Kwame Nkrumah's life was in permanent danger, resulting in 6 assassination attempts on his life. For choosing to remain loyal to his people, Kwame Nkrumah had to endure great suffering, but he was never deterred due to his undying love for his people. 52 years on, the name of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah remains on streets in Harare, Zimbabwe, Abuja, Nigeria, Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, and Windhoek, Namibia. The Kwame Nkrumah University in Kabwe, Zambia is named in his honor, and in proof of Osagyefo being the universal man that Sekou Toure described him as, a street is also named after him all the way in Delhi, India. One of Africa's greatest leaders, Amilcar Cabral, paid homage to Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in a speech at his funeral in Conakry, Guinea. In that speech, he described Osagyefo as a strategist of genius and as one of the greatest men mankind has seen. Amilcar Cabral also used 2 African proverbs to show how futile it is to attempt to soil or attack the legacy and achievements of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And I quote, "As an African proverb says, those who spit at the sky will soil their face." Those who have tried to soil the brilliant personality of Kwame Nkrumah should now understand very well that the African people are right. Another African proverb says, "A hand, however big, can never cover the sky." There it is. Those who have tried to disparage the magnificent achievement of Kwame Nkrumah must today admit that this African proverb is right as well. To end, I leave you with words from the great Ahmed Sekou Toure in his tribute to the Osagyefo. Those who attempted to humiliate Kwame Nkrumah only succeeded in glorifying him. Indeed, time can neither soil his work nor tarnish his great and proud image. Kwame Nkrumah truly never dies.